Throughout the course of NBA history, we've seen the rise of many great players that influence and impact the culture of basketball, achieve countless awards and accolades, put up unthinkable numbers, and leave a special legacy for future generations to adore. But it's in the nature of NBA fans to rank these players amongst each other. We've seen countless creations of this, from the NBA's own top 75 players of all time, to other sports broadcasting stations, to even casual fans of the league. Everyone has their own top 10 players of all time in mind. How they come up with these rankings is a mystery to most of us, but today we're going to come up with our own top 10 greatest players of all time. And what better way to do this than to use strictly numbers and statistics to do so, using objective facts about players to decide who's better. Well, stay tuned, although your head might hurt at the end of this video from all these stats. Before the video starts, be sure to like and subscribe for more content similar to this. We're going to make a top 10 using just numbers. Before we start, we have to go over a few rules in deciding the order. First off, I handpicked 27 of the best NBA players of all time to participate in this challenge. Next, we're going to have these players tested through 16 different categories, all of them comparing different aspects of their games to fully determine this list. The player with the highest number in each stat will be rewarded with 10 points, second place with 9, third with 8, and so on, until the 10th place receives 1 point. Then everyone else 11th and lower will not receive any points. Once we've done this with every category, we will add up every player's total amount of points. The player with the most amount of points will be crowned the GOAT, the second most amount of points will be second place, and so on to determine the top 10. May the challenge begin. To start us off, we're going to use some basic stats, like points per game, rebounds per game, and assists per game. Not much really needs to be explained here. Air Jordan and Wilt the Stilt take first place at 31 points per game. In the rebounds department, Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain dwarf the competition, finishing easily at 1 and 2. Magic proved to be the best at dropping dimes, finishing with over 11 per game. CP3 and the Big O tied at second. The next section of categories deal with accolades and awards. This tends to favor longevity over a player's pure peak of their career. Anyways, the first category we're going to look at is All-Star appearances. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar leads this category with a mind-boggling 19 All-Star appearances. Kobe and LeBron follow him up with 18 appearances. Next, we're going to look at All-NBA appearances. This really determines how long a player has remained at least a top 15 player in the league. LeBron wins this category with an impressive 18 appearances. Kobe, Kareem, and Duncan all tie at second with 15. Now we're going to look at all defensive team selections. I chose this over just steals and blocks because there's so much more to defense than just those two things. At first place is Tim Duncan with an astonishing 15 selections. Kobe and KG finish at second with 12. The next category we have is MVPs. This award really shows how many times a player was the best or at least a top 3 player in the league. At first, we have Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who finished his career with 6 MVPs. Following up, we have Bill Russell and MJ, who both had 5. Now we're going to look at finals MVPs. Not only do you have to be arguably the best player in the league, but your team needs to win the finals, which may be even harder. At first would have been Michael Jordan, but I decided to veto it to Bill Russell. The award wasn't around when he was playing, but if it was, there's no doubt he would have won it at least 6 times, probably 11 times. It was just too large to ignore. Therefore, MJ came in at second with 6. Our final stat of awards is championships. I understand this is a team award, but this tells you a lot about a player. I'll give you one guess at who takes first place here. Yup, Bill Russell with an unimaginable 11 rings. Kareem, MJ, and Pippen follow up with 6. Now we're going to look at the players through some advanced stats. This really shows who is the most efficient, productive, and helpful on the floor, better than any other stat. We're going to start off with true shooting percentage. It pretty much accounts 2-pointers, 3-pointers, and free throws in the 1 field goal percentage. Leading this category is Stephen Curry with a very impressive 62.4%. I mean, it's no surprise. He can bomb them from deep, stroke the midi, and finish like no one else. Our next stat is PER, or player efficiency rating. It just puts a player's per minute production into a number. Leading this category is Dwayne Wade at 28.9. Following up is MJ and LeBron, both around 27 to 28. Now we're going to look at win shares per 48 minutes. It's pretty much a way of showing how much a player impacts their team's winning. Leading this category is none other than Michael Jordan and the Admiral, David Robinson, at 0.25. Wilt Chamberlain follows them up at 0.248. Our final advanced number we're going to look at is box plus minus. Similar to win share per 48, it shows how much a player contributes to their team. Michael Jordan takes this stat with a number of 9.2. LeBron places second at 8.9. Yeah, about what I said in the beginning of this video of how it's only just going to be stats. Yeah, I lied. Because to conclude our comparisons, we have 3 different subjective categories. There are some things in basketball where you can't just put a number behind it, and they deserve a mention just as much as all the other stats in this video. The first one we're going to look at is influence and impact in the league. Although this doesn't necessarily mean the best player, it really shows who is the most innovative, creative, inspirational, and just generally popular amongst the NBA fan base. Well, on my list, I have MJ taking the crown. It's really undeniable what he did for the NBA, popularizing the league, influencing a generation of dominant guards, and affecting the culture of basketball like no one else could. Following up MJ is Stephen Curry and LeBron James. The next category we have is the famous eye test. It's pretty simple. Whoever looks and plays better than anyone else in your perspective wins it. And in my opinion, MJ's game wowed me more than anyone else in this list. Like, it was just amazing how he was able to do these things. And at a close second place, I have LeBron James. I mean, he's literally the most athletic player I've ever seen. He probably could have played in the league at 16 years old. Our final category we have today is legacy. I mean, this is pretty hard to describe, but I would say a player with the best legacy has the least amount of blemishes on their basketball timeline, and a player who is known for dominating his era, especially with a superior team, well, aka they won a lot in their career. At first place on my list, I have Bill Russell. I mean, I know there was only like 8 other teams when he played, but 11 rings is really untoppable. The only player who came close to this is Michael Jordan, who's at our number 2 spot. MJ's legacy is almost perfect. He stayed with the same team for his entire career, besides the Wizards. He brought Chicago 3 championships, retired, and came back and won 3 more, and retired without losing once in the finals. After adding up all the total points, we came up with the top 10, and this is what we came up with. Now, this list is surprisingly very accurate. You have Michael Jordan at your number 1 spot, along with LeBron at a close second place, only 6 points behind. This is almost the same without just using stats. LeBron, in my opinion, is only a tad bit off of Michael Jordan at the GOAT spot. Jordan placed first or second in 10 of the 16 categories used. LeBron placed top 3 in 7 of the 16 categories. You have Kareem at your number 3 spot with a very respectable 75 points. Enough points to separate himself from the rest of the list, but not enough to put him in the real debate of the greatest player of all time. This is also similar to reality. And the top 10 makes sense with guys like Wilt, Kobe, Shaq, Russell, Duncan, and Magic in it. Although if I were to make some personal changes, I would bring down Wilt Chamberlain a few spots lower in the top 10. I would also bring down Kevin Durant outside of the top 10 and put guys like David Robinson, Charles Barkley, and Bob Pettit a few spots lower. I would probably have KD around the 11th or 12th spot. Now, to see Larry Bird not in the top 10 is just sickening. I would put him along with Duncan a few spots higher. Scottie Pippen shouldn't even sniff this list. He only made it this far mainly just because of the championships category. It's really impressive how some of these older players like Jerry West, Bob Pettit, and especially Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell made it this high on this list, considering they didn't even qualify for several of these categories. Out of everyone on this list, there were 4 players currently playing in the NBA. To really give you guys a better perspective of this list, I'll show it to you in a different format. This chart really does a good job of showing you how good these players are relative to their historic peers. You can clearly see that Bron and Jordan are just in a different stratosphere compared to everyone else, being 26 points higher than the next player. You have Kareem on his own level between Bron and Jordan and the rest of the list. You have the 3rd highest grouping of similar scores, which has guys like Wilt, Kobe, Magic, Russell, Shaq, and Duncan, the guys that control most of the lower top 10. And then you have the rest of the list, which is Kevin Durant and lower, guys who accumulated a significantly low amount of points compared to the rest of the list. Michael Jordan and LeBron James combined for 11 more points than the rest of the entire 11 through 20 spots. Michael Jordan combined for more points than the 15 through 20 spots, and had more points than Bill Russell and Shaquille O'Neal combined. Although this list is pretty good, there are some flaws in using this method. Despite me attempting to cover up some of these flaws with some of the later categories like impact, eye test, and legacy, this list isn't perfect. There are so many different aspects of the game that numbers don't capture, like Steph Curry's off-ball movement, Shaq's low-post dominance, Kobe Bryant's mentality, Hakeem's low-post defensive presence, LeBron's one-of-a-kind basketball IQ and feel for the game. There's just certain things you can't put a stat on, but it's just really crazy how we're able to make a surprisingly accurate top 10 with almost all just stats, like just numbers and data. They don't say numbers don't lie for nothing. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe for more similar content to this.